Hi everyone, welcome to Gorgeous Gals. I'm Wendy, and today I'm gonna make a chicken tortilla soup. These are all the ingredients that I use, including the spices and different herbs. I do fresh cilantro. I do the Mexican oregano, some kale, some turmeric. It's just good for anti-inflammatory. Some peppers, and the chicken, of course. And I start by putting the chicken into the pot. And you can also use a whole rotisserie chicken that you get from the grocery stores that's already cooked. It does make it kind of faster because you can just buy the chicken already cooked, shred it apart, throw it in there. It makes the cooking process not take as much time, but it was actually a cold day, so it was a good making soup day because I just kind of let it go for an hour. Make sure that the chicken is totally cooked through because you don't want any raw chicken. So I use chicken stock, top the pot off with that, pull the pot aside, and I get my onion and cut the ends off, get the crinkly skin off. I don't know what you call that, but get that off, run it through the chopper, dump that into the pot, and then some garlic. I really like garlic, so I do a pretty good heaping spoonful. Maybe it's too much for some people, but just depends on your taste. Go with that. So after I get the garlic in there and the onion, then I will put it on the stove and boil it. So now I'm going to cut up all my herbs. That's my cilantro. And then sitting next to that is the kale. So as this speeds through the lengthy process of chopping all this stuff, we'll get to the kale. And I just throw it in a bowl so it's ready to go. And then after that happens, we get the kale done. And definitely cut the leafy part off of that middle stem. That vein is really tough. You don't want to eat that part. So get all my kale cut up and throw it in the bowl. Makes it all easy. And once we get to the part where I pull the pot back over, there's a whole new process with this. Voila, done. So here's my chicken already cooked. Like I said, I let it go for, I guess it's about an hour, just to make sure that it's cooked, and it makes it easy to shred apart too. And like I said before, you can always buy a regular or already done rotisserie chicken, so you don't have to do this part. But my husband and a good friend of his Bob, they use these gloves when they're doing big barbecues because they're like insulated, so it doesn't burn your fingers, and they're kind of cool. So I use them for a lot of different things. And you can pick the meat up and shred it apart. It doesn't matter how hot it is. It doesn't burn your fingers. And they're easy to wash. So we reuse them, just throw them in the sink, wash them, and let them set up right and air dry, and you're good to go. So now I'm just shredding all the chicken apart. And I do save my bones because I use my bones for making bone broth, which is another video, and I'll show you how I do that. But get everything shredded apart. And now I just start dumping. So here's my corn and my black beans that I've rinsed, drained out of the cans and rinsed off because, I don't know, I just don't like the stuff on it. And then I use a can of Rotel, the fire roasted Rotel tomatoes. They're just a good flavor. I like the flavor of them. And then tomato paste. And I like this particular brand. There's not a lot in it but tomatoes. It doesn't have all the other stuff in it that you really don't need. And scoop all that out. Make sure you get all the good tomato bits in there. And, some people like to use crushed tomatoes or tomato sauce. I kind of like the hunks of tomato in it. Just texture, good texture. And then I'm going to take the kale and the cilantro and dump that in there. It seems like a lot, but when it cooks down, you really won't even notice that I just dumped a whole lot of that in there. And get all that worked in. And And then after, get that kind of mashed down in there, I'll come back in with all my spices, and we'll go through that. It just takes a few minutes to kind of smush it in. I usually make a mess when I'm cooking, so I was trying to be a little bit clean when I was doing this. But it really is. It's a quick and easy recipe, and it's really yummy. It's a good cold day thing. See, like I said, it make a mess. Oh, and there's Mo, one of my corgis. He's checking the floor to make sure I haven't dropped anything. He's my little kitchen cleaner. So once I get that kind of work down in there, I'll start with my spices. So the first one I'm going to dump in here is going to be some onion powder. Or granulated onion, sorry. And I give it a good sprinkling. And then the next one is going to be some cumin. And I like cumin. I like the flavor. It does give it good depth. And so I do give it a pretty good shaking on that one. And then just a good old taco seasoning. Whoops, sorry. That was me coming back with the onion powder. But yeah, any kind of taco seasoning. It just has kind of the range of all the spices that you put into cooking, making the tortilla soup. So yeah, that's a pretty good sprinkling. And then I found this seasoning, fajita seasoning at Smart and Final. I don't use a lot of that because it does have a pretty good heat to it, but it's just another layer of flavor. And then chipotle chili, that's a one you're very light with because that can get pretty hot too, and you don't want everybody burning their mouths when they're eating your food. And then some turmeric, which is a good anti-inflammatory, and to be honest with you, you don't even know what's in there. But get all that mixed up, and then once you kind of get all that incorporated, and you can see when everything kind of starts to dissipate and kind of, I call it schmishmorshing around in there. Then you can put it back on the stove, put the lid on it, and get to cooking. It takes, like I said, it was a cold day, so I pretty much had it on the stove for the majority of the day. Oh, and I do add a couple cans of, I take the can of tomatoes and just top it off with a little bit of water to make sure you have plenty of liquid in there. So put it on the stove, crank up the heat, well, not too high, about a medium heat. And just let it cook and boil. And like I said, it was a cold day, so I let it go for a while. And then once it's done, all done. Then there's the end. And I use shredded cabbage on mine. So you can do shredded cabbage, tortilla strips, sour cream, avocado, whatever you want. But happy cooking. Thank you. Bye.